Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type, but baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you quit playing. Won't you take the chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Look, see, we vibing and you know it's true. Baby, what it do? Do for me and I'ma do for you, no doubt about it. Boosie, I'm a Midwest king, looking for myself a queen. Ready to chase a dream with a dope self-esteem. You find it in all I know, and that's for real. You get to shaking that ass on the floor, and I see what's real. No disrespect, I just tell it like it is. Do you ever want some kids? What your ultimate goals? Maybe I can help with those. The mo was broke when he made you a blessing. You looking like a whole buffet, and I need some seconds. You say you had promiscuous ways, that was back in the day. I'll be alive, I say I did it, that shit was a phase. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type, but baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you, if you go playing. Won't you take the chance with me and have that conversation? I just wanna have that conversation with you. Come and talk, yeah. I just wanna have that conversation with you. Lady, you so far ahead of these others, just like a ship on the horizon. Picking up on your vibe, signal stronger than Verizon. All the thoughts that I've been contemplating, ain't no time for faking or debating. You the one, ain't no mistaking. Look, I see you swag different. Always carry yourself like you ready, you know the mission. I had to know you, I'm tempted. I can see why you timid. Hold up now, baby, listen. Just take that dance with me, I can show you that there's a difference. I'm locked in. I throw away my playaways because you pop in. A shooter always shoot a shot. With you by my side, I guarantee we'll reach the top. I put that on God and then I'll give you all that I got. So baby, take this journey with me. You can pick the time and place, this nigga isn't picky. Smile on your face, I know the deal. Sign and deliver after seal. I can see it in her eyes, this one right here for real. I just wanna have a conversation.
All right. So we are here. We are live. What's cracking? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Behind Them Six with your boy Ham Solo 05 Gaming here with you on the TSWS Gaming YouTube channel. And today, I have brought you the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast himself, Mr. BRAP.
What's up, Hams?
Yeah,
What's up,
some
man?
like I guess, and I guess Slow-Mo calls you Enrique, but which one do you prefer?
Either or. I mean, my real name is Enrique, but people in the gaming community call me BRAP. And that started like years ago because like people just Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. That's too long to say. Oh, BRAP. First it was BRAP, and then someone's like, oh no, it's BRAP. We're gonna call you BRAP, and it just stuck. So, but yeah, I mean, most of the BRAP panel members refer to me as Enrique for, but yeah, everyone else like in the community calls me BRAP. I'm on Mooch's Crossfire every Friday night on his channel, and he calls me BRAP. So it's just stuck.
Yeah, and I tell you what, before we get started and before I say what I, ask my questions and whatnot, I just got to apologize to everybody for being super duper late. I had a kind of a weird incident happen. It started snowing like crazy out here, and my power went out for like only an hour, really. But when I checked on my power outage, they, of course, tell you a much longer time than it probably will take for them to fix it to, so they probably don't get a whole bunch of calls from people saying, where's my power at, and stuff like that. So, they said it wasn't going to come back on until like 10:30 at night, tonight or something like that. But it ended up coming on like 5 minutes before the show was actually supposed to turn on. And I was all nervous because my computer was already on. So I was doing my checks and everything, and then Windows had to update, yada yada yada. But we are here now, and I'm happy to see everybody up in the chat. I see you out there, Too Big, uh, Sentinel Gaming. I see you as usual. Stank Ma, good to see you. Dank Nate, good to see you guys out here supporting. I appreciate you guys for coming through, although that we were late. But Mr. BRAP, Mr. BRAP, you're here with me today. Thank you for showing up and being flexible with your time as well, sir. And thanks for having me on last night on your channel. That was that was a good time. That was a good time. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It was great having you on, man. Great conversation, and happy to be on here. So, I appreciate the invitation as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. But first of all, I gotta ask you. I gotta get it off of your chest real quick. Like, there have been people saying BRAP defends PlayStation, BRAP defends Xbox. I've heard both. As weird as that is, some people are like, there's no way you should be talking to BRAP on your channel. That's wild. As if they have a stake into what happens with my channel wherever it decides to go. People, I mean, everybody has their own opinion on who you should have, who you should talk to, what circle you should be in, yada, 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 yada. And to me, it's just projecting. Whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna talk to who I want to talk to. They didn't do anything to me. I'm not planning on doing anything to them. We're just talking about video games because that's the hobby. That's why we're all here for the most part. Anyways, so I gotta know, like, after after I got done talking to you, you're like, I like both of those consoles, but I'm more on PC. And I'm like, what the hell? So what's really going on, bro? What's really going on with you?
Look, it's funny, man. Like, look, I always say this: if people are calling you a pony or an Xbot, it's because you talk about video games in ways that don't agree with whatever narrative it is they're trying to push. Which if it's kind of funny because we used to joke around on the BRAP panel like, hey, if people are saying you're a pony one week or an Xbot the next week, it's because you're talking about playing video games, because you have all these platforms. But yeah, I mean, I mostly play PC. PC's my primary platform of choice. I mean, it has been for the last couple years, probably for the last 2.5, 3 years. Actually longer than that, about 4 years now. It's going to be going on 4 years that PC has been my platform of choice. And look, I just go where the games are. I mean, I've been gaming like we talked about last night on BRAP. I've been gaming a long time. 40, about 41 years I've been gaming. Go back to your Atari 2600, but PC is my primary platform of choice. I game on PC because I like the flexibility that PC offers me in terms of being able to scale resolution, graphics, things like that, frames per second. It's one of the reasons why I got back into Call of Duty. Remember we talked about this last time. Like I haven't played Call of Duty. Like I said to you, like competitively or not competitively. I don't play competitive like esports, but I haven't played regularly since.
With like a squad. Like I see what you're saying, because that's what we called competitive back in the day, right? I mean, back in the day when you were playing with your buddies on like the 360 or the PS3 or whatever, you're like, we're playing competitively because we watched our KDs and we cared about like what we did at the end of the match. Tactical nuke was a thing to try to get, you can be playing competitively without being esports. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And so, hold on real quick. Hey, I'm going to drop my camera real quick, but I'm going to still talk. But yeah, like, I just, it's kind of weird that people, it sounds like you were saying like people are like, oh, why would you have him on? Well, because I'm a gamer and you're a gamer. And that's what we do. We talk about video games. I don't care what platform someone plays video games on. I really don't. What I don't care for is like the fanboy stuff and the extreme behaviors that people go to do pro bono work for corporations. That's weird to me. That's not the essence of gaming. Gaming is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be pro bono work defending your favorite corporation. But I think what happens, Ham Solo, is that when you criticize a platform, and I'm sorry, Ham Solo, give me just a quick second, man. Quick second.
No, you're good. And I see what he's saying, because I said something as simple online as like, I had several different series S and X controllers, as you see right here. I have like 5 of them or 6 of them right now. And they were breaking quite a like I was having stick drift with I have stick drift with 2 of them currently. And in the the Xbox One era, I had stick drift with like 2 or 3 other controllers. Now, I'll be honest, I bought 2 of them used. So 2 out of 3 of them I had used, but one of them I had brand new that came with my One X that got stick drift as well. I say on Twitter one time, I am tired of getting stick drift on my Xbox controllers. I really wish that would stop happening. I said something along that line. Not trolling, just being honest.
You got attacked.
And I'm a PlayStation fanboy.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you know, like you're
like,
talking.
what?
You're presenting a use case, right? Like something that you experienced.
I was talking about my durability issue for me personally.
Yeah.
They're great controllers. I like the way they feel. I like the way they play. I like it better than the PlayStation controllers. I like the stick placement better. But when it comes to, and keep in mind, I have a daughter. I had a growing daughter at the time that was 3 years old, 4 years old. Now she's 5 years old, and I've always been around Xbox, but there was a big difference between, I don't know, it just felt like my controllers were really breaking quite a bit, and she didn't even play video games obviously when she was 3, but like when she was 4 she dabbled a little bit, but she wasn't like breaking my controllers. She barely could reach buttons on the controllers. So I'm trying to give an excuse as to why maybe give them some sort of excuse as to why it could have possibly have broken. But to be honest, I'm just like, yo, these controllers are breaking a lot on into the new generation to where she's old enough to not be silly. And I'm still my Forza controller. Never done anything wrong to that. This guy here.
I love that controller, by the way. I love it. It's a great controller.
I love it as well. Stick drift.
Oh wow. See, I haven't had those issues with stick drift. Knock on wood. But like that, but to your point, Ham, so that is the point. Like somebody said this to me today, like, oh, you're always defending Sony. I'm like, well, give me specific examples. Oh, well, you're critical of Xbox a lot. Well, you understand that my criticism comes from being on the Xbox for 21 years. Like I have 2 Xbox Series X's in my house, an Xbox Series S. Okay. I subscribe to Game Pass. For those who don't know, I was an Xbox Live beta tester. Always have to throw that out. So my criticism comes from a historical perspective that I have of Xbox that goes back to 2001, and with Halo and with, the games and we talked about some of the games yesterday on BRAP, some of the great, we talked about ripping music from the original Xbox. So, I mean, those are things like
games.
Yeah, those are tangible experiences and things that when Microsoft talked about their platforms, our platforms could do this. And they would provide software to show you what it is they were marketing as, okay, look, here's a game where, we've talked about you can rip music on our hard drive and you can have customized soundtracks in your video games. And what do? San Andreas comes out, you can customize your soundtrack to San Andreas or use your custom soundtrack to San Andreas. So like that was they did things. They gave you tangible things from a software perspective or deliverable that allowed you to experience the things that they market in terms of hardware. And so one of my criticism about the Xbox Series X and when they talked about 12 teraflops, we haven't seen anything yet that's been truly Series X only that really taps into 12 teraflops per se, right? And so my criticism is coming from that historical perspective and my own individual use case. Everyone's use case is going to be different. When I say, I have issues with Xbox, I'm never saying that I never present it as all people are having the same issues I have. I'm talking about my perspective. But again, it comes from my using the platform and my 21 years of experience with the platform. Now, I've been, I've criticized Sony for earlier this generation for their what I didn't like about their messaging. Remember the old upgrade path that it was kind of like fumbling of messaging from Sony. Like they didn't have a clear, concise upgrade path, and I criticized about that. So I mean, it's just like you said, Ham. So it's unfortunate. Like you people forget that these two states of being can exist where you can actually like your Xbox and be critical of your Xbox at the same time. Like we do this with other consumer products. Like I don't know, Hamp. I mean, or not Hamp. Sorry, Ham Solo. There's probably
Close
something you own.
names. I get it.
Yeah, I know. There's probably something you like where you're like, yeah, I love this thing, but it could do better here. I mean, we do this every day.
I do that with, dude. I'm a huge Nebraska football fan. That's where I'm from. We haven't won a championship since the mid 90s. I love that team. But year in and year out, I am a asshole about my own team. And it's just like, who isn't? Like when you legitimately care about something, think about it. Your kids, you're very critical about your kids. You're very critical about your family members. You're very critical about the people that you actually rock with. Very critical. If you seen them smoking something they ain't supposed to be smoking, you're gonna be like, hey, I like you, but what's going on here? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, Xbox, what are you smoking? and what's wrong with doing that? Because I do that about my own squad, Nebraska. What are you smoking? The Broncos, when the last year with Russell Wilson, that looks fantastic coming out. And then we hit the field during the regular season. What are y'all smoking? Like, what's wrong with saying that kind of stuff about something that you actually give a damn about?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you should be able to, like, I think people confuse constructive criticism with like fanboyism, and they're really two different things. When you're providing tangible examples, right, of why you're being critical of a product, that's different than saying, Xbox sucks because they have no games. Well, we know they have games. Or that's different than saying, PlayStation is, I can't think of a PlayStation example right now. Jim Ryan is scared of Microsoft. There's a difference between providing some kind of constructive criticism, data points to whatever it is you're talking about, or something tangible that people can potentially relate to, and people conflate the two, and they're not the same thing. And it's like you have to, and the unfortunate part, I think, what happens, Am Solo, and what you experience and what I experience, and what some of the good people in the live chat have experienced if they're on Twitter, is that if you don't pick a side, then then they automatically will assign a side to you, especially if you offer constructive criticism about a platform. Like, I always say this, like, fanboyism is anti-consumer. It is counterintuitive to what consumerism is. And I just, it's unfortunate, and it's very much a dogmatic point of view. And unfortunately, I think people are just trapped inside their box of console wars, and they can't see out of it. They can't see anything outside that box because they're stuck. They've been indoctrinated into console wars.
Even and hey, even if you are or want to be a console warrior, at least have the ability to think outside the box. Because I understand there's some people that are like, I'm Xbox, ain't nothing changing, or I'm PlayStation, ain't nothing changing, and that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine. If you have a
But
preference, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, absolutely.
and I have a preference 100%. You asked me yesterday,
Yeah.
what do I play? And I say I'm on my Xbox every night, and I'll be on my Xbox tonight, and that's just what I do. But if there's something I don't like, I think I would be at a disservice not only to anybody that I talk to in the chat or on Twitter, but also to myself to sit here and lie to or to ignore. Better yet, to ignore. So, as I said one thing a while back about the controllers, and yeah, as many people have said to me before, sure, that was my experience with them, but I've seen plenty of other people have that same type of experience with them, and you know what? It won't change me from playing my Xbox all the time, or probably buying it. I mean, hell, I'm about to buy an elite controller, so then I could just maybe have it under warranty. You know what I mean?
Oh, don't say that. You might get people upset at you.
Oh, whatever. I think
I've
it's
seen
time
that.
to upgrade. Like I said, I have like 7 of these, like 5 or 7 of these controllers.
Here's what I've learned, Hamso, too. When I have been critical of Sony, especially on Twitter, I don't hear a peep from those people who come at me when I'm critical of Xbox. And it's kind of funny. And I even said this on the show yesterday. I said, like, even when I talk about a preference, and I said to you yesterday, I said to you on BRAP, I said, I prefer the Elite 2 controller over the DualSense Edge.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I just do. I think for me, it's just a better controller. And again, I know we talked about this yesterday on BRAP. I won't regurgitate everything we talked about.
Is it just the battery life?
No, like I said yesterday, it's it's really the triggers.
Oh, yeah, that's
and the
right.
bumpers,
You did say the
and
triggers
they just
feel better.
yeah, they feel a little bit. How do I describe it, man? There's a little bit of like with the PlayStation DualSense Edge triggers, they feel a little bit softer. I don't like that
Like
softness.
spongy?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the Elite 2 have a little more weight to it. I guess if that makes any sense. Not less spongy, I guess, if you want to call it that. But no,
Just
I mean,
a little
like
bit rougher. Just
yeah.
they go exactly where they like quickly.
Yeah, but
Like,
I mean,
more of a punch instead of a pillow.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Gotcha.
don't call the dual edge a pillow. People might come after you.
Oh,
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, it's just silly, man. Like, and it's just wild that people even said to you, like, "Oh, don't have BRAP on." I mean, crying out loud, this is video games. This isn't the Bloods versus. This isn't the Bloods versus the Crips. I mean, like this is like gaming is not supposed to have this element of drama surrounding it. You know, where people feel the need to tell you who you can and can't have on your show. That's absurd. And what's sad is that we all love the same thing, gaming, but yet it's the one thing that we love that divides us. It's so ironic.
yeah. But let's get into the actual questions of the show, because this actually kind of like I like that warm up a little bit right there, because now after saying all of that, you get to present some of the history that you have, some of the stuff that you've done. I got a chance to relay a little bit of my history with you yesterday on your show, but now it's my time to do the same for you. So I didn't get a chance to ask you before the show because I had my issues, and then you hopped on and you had to figure out your microphone thing, and we were already like I was already a half hour, like 45 minutes late or something like that for my own personal schedule. But let me ask, was the 2600 your first console that you played? Because I thought I heard you mention that.
Yeah, no, it was my first console that I played. It goes back to 1982. And I remember playing Space Invaders.
Man, you said 40 years exactly.
Yeah, 41 years. Yeah, yeah. Hold on a second. I turn my mic up. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I mean, Space Invaders. Was probably maybe, or maybe it was Pong. Pong or Space Invaders. I don't remember. I mean, again, I was 5 years old, but I do distinctly remember playing playing Space Invaders and Pac-Man and Pitfall and Galaga. I remember always breaking the because I was a little kid, so like you would kind of the Atari had like it was a joystick basically with one button,
Right.
and those joysticks were if you didn't hold them correctly, or if you kind of wrapped your hand around them and held them too tight, you could break them pretty easily. And so I remember
There was
like
no
breaking them.
diagonal for those things either. It was up,
Yeah.
down, left, or right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I remember breaking a couple of those and my dad getting upset because he'd have to go out and buy new ones. But that was it, man. I mean, like I remember like my dad and my older sister playing Atari, and Atari was like this phenomena. I mean, it really was. I mean, you know, it was everyone that I knew, at least when and family members, of friends, everyone had an Atari. It very much reminded me of the Nintendo Entertainment System. And now very reminiscent of PlayStation, where you know a lot of people have PlayStation consoles in their house. You know, it's funny. Like I listen to my I have two boys, I have three actually, but the two oldest, you know, their friends are they all play video games, right? But it's kind of like the same. Most people have PlayStation in their house, and so again, the Atari 2600 was kind of reminiscent of the NES and what I see today with the PlayStation, and it was such a phenomenon at the time. It was like, you know, arcades were a big deal back then, Ham. So like that's where you went to go play video games. I remember that. I don't know if you remember the tabletop arcade games, like that had, you know, you go to like a Pizza Hut, and there. I don't know if you had. Some of you guys probably had Pizza Hut out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
I just want. I'm assuming that's a big
we
franchise.
had Pizza Hut,
Yeah,
Little Caesars, Domino's. We got all the generic stuff and
generic. Yeah,
and you gotta remember. I'm in the Midwest. We got food.
I hear you, man.
We got way more food than we need. I tell you that much.
But I remember like going to the Pizza Hut restaurants, and they had the tabletops, and so we'd go in there. We'd wait for our table, you know, so we could sit down and eat. But in the meantime, we'd you know, my dad pop in the quarter. We'd sit down at the tabletop, play Pac-Man. You know, so but
Or
that was
Donkey Kong.
Or Donkey Kong, yeah. So Donkey Kong was another game on the what's it called that I played. But yeah, that's where I started, man. That's where it all started for me, and I just never looked back.
All right, so it started off on the 2600, but and some arcades, obviously some tabletops, and you know, cabinets and whatever. But when did it actually click in that you were like when were you like happy to be playing games, like where it wasn't like so much of just a side kind of thing? When did you and I don't want you to talk about as an adult. I want you to talk about like as a kid, where you're locked in, oh man, I seen a commercial of this and I'm looking forward to this, or I'm looking forward to getting this console or whatever. You actually knew what video games were and you were locked onto something. When did that first happen?
I would say the 8-bit generation, Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Sega Master System. So that's when it was like
The Master System.
Oh yeah, Master System was money. Space Harrier.
Okay. That game was tough.
Yeah. I played it in Yakuza. It's so funny. Like in the Yakuza games, you go to the Sega arcade and they would have Space
Mhm.
Harrier.
Same with like Shenmue and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, Afterburner. But yeah, I mean, I just so I would say that generation is really where I was like, I really started like following, gaming more, reading print media. Um, that's where it really like started clicking with me. Like, okay, I'm not just like a 5-year-old anymore. This is like become a hobby now. Because I'm talking about video games with my friends. I'm going to I would go to the mall and I go to KB stores, I go to Babbage's and Toys R Us, and I would start looking at the first place I would go to is the video game aisle. And I would start looking at video games, and I remember like looking at before there was Nintendo Power's Nintendo Fan Club, the magazine, then it became Nintendo Power. And I remember looking at Nintendo Power and reading up about all the games that were coming to Nintendo. I mean, you got to remember, like Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo was kind of like you had to have like if you wanted to play like all the third party stuff, majority of third party stuff, like you had to like you have a Nintendo. Like if Castlevania, all those games, Metal Gear, and there's countless others. Ninja Gaiden. There's
And their
more.
third parties couldn't deviate either.
Yeah, and Sega didn't have that kind of support. Sega was kind of doing and innovating, doing their own thing with their own internal studios, which was great. And the Master System was a really cool looking system. But that's really when it like really started like clicking with me. Ham is like when then my friends and then we'd sit downstairs and I remember when the first Legend of Zelda came out. And I remember the dungeons in Zelda, and I remember like we would use graph paper to like map out the dungeons. And I remember we would take turns playing Legend of Zelda. Like that was like the first like kind of like couch co-op experience. You sit down with your friends and you just swap controllers back and forth to play the game or to try to be a boss. I remember Metroid. Metroid was, geez, it was a little bit brutal, at the time when it came out. But yeah, man. I mean, those are some really great times. I mean, it really like at the time like gaming wasn't as mainstream, so it was like there was only a handful of friends I had. Well, I shouldn't say it. I think maybe with Nintendo was probably becoming mainstream towards the latter part of that generation in the 8-bit era as Nintendo started solidifying itself. Because you got to remember, like. Once the video game crash happened after E.T. killed it, that joke about E.T. killed the video game industry. The E.T. video game.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, but Nintendo, I mean, they didn't refer to they called it an entertainment system. They didn't want to associate it with a game console because of what happened. And you got to remember, like the NES, Nintendo bundled Rob the robot, and they wanted to kind of make it look like a toy in some ways because of what happened. So, but yeah, man, that's when it clicked for me, man. That's when it became like that's when I was kind of like, yeah, I'm a gamer.
I remember that commercial with the robot with the Nintendo.
Remember that? Yeah,
yeah. That was an interesting looking. That was an interesting little commercial there. But so Master System, NES, really big part of what got you big into gaming. But tell me something about like when like PlayStation kind of hit the scene, like how you felt about that. Because prior to that, although there were some, like PlayStation wasn't the first thing to ever have a CD to be played on as a game, right? But it was definitely probably the most popular one to actually break into that CD-ROM space. What where was your head at when PlayStation first kind of came out and showed what they had to offer, the games and whatnot? Because it sounds like you were dabbling with Sega and Nintendo, which were cartridge based, but did you have maybe a CD, a Sega CD, or did you have anything like a Saturn? or anything before having a PlayStation? Or was PlayStation your first CD-ROM based?
No, Sega CD. And I remember there was like I forget what it was, man. It was like was it an alien game or some kind of like sci-fi game? Oh, geez, I can't remember, man. I didn't have a lot of games for the Sega CD, but I did have one. Um,
So you did have a Sega CD.
yeah, but I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to remember. Oh man, that's okay. If I can't remember the games because they probably weren't that memorable.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I
some
remember
pretty
it being
rough
cool
games on
because
there.
I remember it being cool because it kind of introduced like live kind of like footage in video games. And I remember there was one
Yeah.
game in particular, and oh god, I can't remember the name now. Anyhow, but no, but I would say
Yeah,
that
the FMV games, full motion.
yes, and but no, I would say that in terms of like really using a CD based console it would have been the PlayStation. And I remember when I was really excited for the Sega, the Sega Saturn.
Mm.
And then I was like, I remember when PlayStation was, and I was like, oh, wait, Sony's getting into video games? And of course, back then I was younger. I was a little bit of a fanboy. And I'm like, nah, it's Sony. They don't know anything about video games.
Oh,
And then
you
I
were
was like,
Sega.
yeah, I love Sega. I mean, because you got to remember, like, after when the Genesis, when the Genesis came
That's
out, I was
funny.
like, when the Genesis came out, I mean, I was like, oh, screw Nintendo. I mean, I had a Super Nintendo, but the Sega Genesis was my primary platform because the Sega Genesis, like for us, had kind of a cool factor, you know.
Had
Like
that
I remember,
danger factor.
and I remember that Alter Beast, seeing that the first time, and arise, my son, or whatever he said in the beginning of the game, and the character comes out, and I'm like, whoa, like what is this? I mean, it was the sixth. I mean, going from 8-bit to like 16-bit ham was just like, wow. It was it was such a visual like improvement. And I remember like I was like, and Super Nintendo hadn't come out yet. And so, I was like, we were the cool kids in the neighborhood. We had the newest console. It was 16-bit. It did all these cool things that Nintendo didn't. Remember Sega's marketing?
Oh yeah,
Sega does what Nintendo don't. Yeah, I mean, it was so yeah. So coming out of that console generation, 16-bit era, I mean, the Sega CD, and I was like, okay. It was like, I'm looking for the Saturn. Saturn's going to dominate. That was kind of our mindset. So I understand the console war mentality because I used a console war. I used a console war for Xbox 20-some years ago, but then I got older, and and that you hopefully you mature out of that. Some people don't, unfortunately, but no, it's like, but yeah. And then when the PlayStation came out, I remember my friends getting it, and I'm like right at launch, I'm like, I gotta get one, and I got one. I got my PlayStation at Sears. I'll never forget that. I bought it at Sears. If anyone remembers Sears,
You bought a PlayStation at Sears.
but I couldn't find it anywhere, and Sears had them.
Hey, it's no knock, because remember, not that long ago, people were buying PS5s at Kohl's.
That's right, they
So
were.
let's
Yeah.
not act like Sears is that crazy.
Slow-Mo got his PS5 at Kohl's.
There you go.
Yeah. But I had my eye on the
Clothing store.
Saturn. I had my eyes on the Saturn. And eventually got one, but it was always, but then at that time though, it was too late, like for Sega to really kind of sink their hooks in me because I had gone down the PlayStation rabbit hole, and there was kind of this cool factor about PlayStation, like it was kind of like the new kid on the block. It was Sony. There was kind of that cool factor, like, oh, this is Sony, because Sony back then, and you got to remember, like for us growing up, like there was a Sony Walkman, the yellow Walkman, the sports, whatever it was called. Like that was cool to have that. Sony electronics were cool. I mean, now it's like I wouldn't touch a Sony receiver. If somebody gave you one for free. My own personal bias preference for Denon and other brands, but yeah, I mean there was something cool about PlayStation, and they but I think what really cemented PlayStation for me because you got to remember Final Fantasy was on Nintendo.
Right.
And when they show that Final Fantasy VII trailer on TV, oh man, Hamso, let me tell you, man. And we talked about the NFL games. Remember the 989 games yet last night? We talked about those games.
Right.
And Hamso, to see the jump from the 16-bit era to 32-bit. Now, now we're like getting into 3D now, right? It was like, wow.
It was. It really was. Because I played a ton of John Madden on the Genesis, and I was talking about Bill Walsh as well.
Yeah.
Going into that game day and Game Breaker, where I told you I was literally playing defense on Notre Dame, playing as my brother's number in that game.
That's awesome.
It was nuts.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that last night, and that's awesome. But I there were some good games on the Sega Saturn. I mean, not that they weren't bad games. I mean, you think Panzer Dragoon is one that comes to mind. Obviously, the Virtua Fighter. But then when they got Final Fantasy VII, man, whoa! And they showed that. I remember the first time seeing the trailer and just like, wow, my mind was just blown away. It was such a paradigm shift in gaming to go from 2D to 3D, and it really changed how we experience video games. I mean, it just really took it to a whole different level. Final Fantasy VII was just like, in my opinion, I think the game that really put PlayStation on the map, because at that time, up until that point, it was only Nintendo that had the PlayStation, or not PlayStation, but Final Fantasy games.
Right.
And here comes PlayStation. They locked the deal down, and I mean, the rest is history. I mean that game is synonymous with that franchise now. Is synonymous with PlayStation for the most part.
Yeah. So, did you have was there any time for Nintendo again after once you got the PlayStation? Was the 64 something that you were playing at all?
On occasion, like obviously, Mario 64. I mean, that was Mario. I mean, come on. I mean, that game from a platforming perspective
right now.
I mean, do you remember? I mean, I don't know if you played that game when it came out on the N64.
Yeah,
but you remember how like huge that was to go from. And I remember like playing 3D Mario. I'm like, okay, this feels weird a little bit. I got to get used to it because I was used to side-scrolling Mario for the most part. But that was huge. I mean, that was just
all the stuff that you could do in that game. Yeah, different ways to jump. You could be like crouching and do a backflip. You could do the triple jump. You could do a sideways jump, and just running. I just remember being just like the amount of time that I wasted running around the castle, just bouncing off of stuff, flipping into things, going into portraits I didn't expect to go into. It was definitely magical playing that game. That was really insane compared to, I mean, you were seeing PlayStation flex out some really good looking stuff, but then you look at the 64 and you're just like, but Mario, but like this, like Nintendo showed that they aren't going anywhere, even with not having a disc at this time when PlayStation is pumping out the flashy new product. Nintendo still somehow managed. Like I swear to this day, I swear Nintendo is that somehow managed company, in my opinion, and they just crush it every single time.
I mean, they're good at making video games. I mean, they really are. I mean, you don't last in this industry by not being good. And they, I mean, outside of the miss of the Wii U, they've been pretty consistent with and there were some there weren't bad games in the Wii U, just didn't, that platform I should say, just didn't gain traction compared to the Wii. But no, I mean they've it's interesting. You're right. Like the N64 was cartridge based, but they were still putting out good games. I remember playing Star Fox for the first time, and GoldenEye. I mean, and so like I would dabble like when games like when GoldenEye or some really good solid games would come out, then I would, I'd play them, But PlayStation was my primary platform at the time.
Okay.
And then Metal Gear Solid. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah. So
I mean,
I have a buddy. I have another guy on this channel, Loke. He won't shut up about that game. Week in and week out, he has to remind me that it's the best game of all time, the best series of all time, and yada yada.
I mean, that game was, and I had played, Metal Gear on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and to see like Solid Snake in 3D, and to see, it just, it was like, I'm telling you, that might be one of the best times in gaming, in my opinion.
For sure, I could see that
because of the paradigm shit, the jump.
I think the 3 generations, like obviously the generation prior to the PlayStation, to the original PlayStation, was pretty dope, but it was also a freaking mess. Because like everybody was trying to come out with a crazy console. Hell, 3DO wasn't even like making their own consoles. They were letting everybody else make consoles for them. Gold Star, freaking Panasonic, and I think there was like maybe Magnavox or something like that. I don't remember.
I think Magnavox did do one.
Yeah, it's insane that like a lot of people forget about the Jaguar. That was a big deal during that time.
The Atari Jaguar, I remember that.
Yeah, the SNK had their own
Neo Geo.
Yeah, the Neo Geo was doing their thing, disc based and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of stuff going on, but it's weird to say this, but once everything kind of got consolidated, which is kind of what's happening a little bit more today than back then, of course, but still consolidating happened, and we got Sony pumping out good content, we got Nintendo pumping out good content, and then along came Microsoft. Tell me, what was it like for you? Because the PS2 was already out, right? GameCube was making noise and looking extra weird with their messaging. Remember the box commercial where there's like a person in the box trapped, and it was like, what the hell is going on here? And then they showed off like the controller and stuff for it, and it was like, what the hell is going on?
I remember like my criticism of the GameCube was like, this thing looks like a Fisher Price toy.
Right, it looked weird.
Like it didn't look like a console. I mean, it was a console, but it was very like, because at the end,
it looked like one of those boom boxes that you used to have a microphone with. Used to. It had a. I mean, mine. It has a handle on the back of it, like you carry it around and you just record music on it.
Yeah. and so, when the PS2 came out, now, this is after, the Sega, obviously the Dreamcast. Oh man, goat system. One of the goats, in my opinion. And it's fortunately what happened with Sega, but when PlayStation, the one thing about Sony, and so this is a kind of interesting. We talked about PlayStation before, but PlayStation comes out. I'm 18 years old, and now I'm in my 20s. Okay. And I'm in my, early 20s as the PlayStation 2 comes out. And so Sony had this cool factor. It looked like something an adult would have. The design of the console. It really did. It looked like a high-end device at the time. And then you have this GameCube. It was kind of like, look, you're 20 years old and you're not maybe as mature as you are at my age, but or I wasn't mature as I am now. I kind of like, poo-pooed it. But I did have a GameCube because Luigi's Mansion, obviously Mario and all the other games, but I love Luigi's Mansion though. That was a great game. But no, so the Xbox is announced. And I'll never forget this, Ham Solo. I'm actually out with a group of friends and we're hanging out. We're doing like what 20-somethings do. We're out at a bar, having a couple of drinks, hanging out.
Spending way too much money.
Yeah, having spent way too much money on drinks. And I remember like somebody goes, "Yo, Microsoft just announced a console." I'm like, what? They're like, yo, it's the Xbox. I'll never forget. These guys were so excited. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. Okay. Xbox. I like the name. So, and I actually, at this point, like, I was still playing video games, but I wasn't like really following the news as much. I was just playing games, you know? So, you know,
Okay.
I would go to like, you know, EB, whatever, just pick up a game, you know. I was loosely following video games, like just the new stuff. And so when I hear this, I'm like, oh my God, this is so Xbox, Microsoft, okay. And I'm like, oh man, Microsoft's making a console. And I remember like there was kind of like this buzz around some of my gamer friends, like Microsoft's making a console. Microsoft, like the idea of Microsoft, this behemoth
Right.
that had a lot of money. This is also shortly after they,
You think
some
of
of us
Microsoft,
worked.
you think of Gateway, Dell.
Yeah.
You think
Well,
of
some of us,
like computer, compact. Remember
yeah.
them back in the day?
Yeah, but some of this comes on the heels of them and the antitrust stuff, you know, with the Xbox. So they lost the antitrust case in 2020, or not 20. I'm sorry, not 2020. I think it was like the early 2000s or 99. I don't remember. 20 something years ago. It was just anyone can Google it, but it's probably about 20 something years ago. They were found guilty of anti-competitive practices. Microsoft was. And so there were some friends in my circle. They're like, oh, you know, this isn't good for gaming. And, you know, it's Microsoft. They're going to try to, you know, do their anti-competitive dance on the gaming, you know, so there was that concern. And I really wasn't like, I didn't think it was anything to, at the time, I wasn't like, oh yeah, it's going to happen. You know, I was kind of like more like, okay, this is cool. Microsoft, you know, this is off the heels of like Dreamcast down, you know, Sega getting out of, the console space. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like someone else is stepping in now, and it's Microsoft. And we thought like Microsoft's going to, if anyone could step in the console space and make an impact, and this is what our thinking was, my thinking was 20 years ago, it's Microsoft. They got a lot of money. And I remember like the more I learned about the console, and so like, you know, we talked about the internal hard drive. And then there was this thing called Xbox Live. And I remember like doing a lot of research about the Xbox, and I'm like, whoa. You mean, and I was also at this time playing PC gaming too. I was like doing a lot of the arena stuff, arena shooters on PC,
So like Unreal.
Yeah, Unreal. And so like we were playing online, but you weren't like live voice chat, or at least I wasn't. So I remember hearing about Xbox Live, and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds awesome. Like Microsoft was like, you can have a friends list, you can talk to people, you can game online, blah blah blah. I'm like, yes, sign me up. And so I do remember like with the original Xbox too, I remember some of the specs and them partnering with Intel, and you know, it being more kind of like, you know, PC based. I mean, that's kind of where the name Xbox come DirectX.
Mm-hmm.
But
shout out to Seamus that was on here.
Yeah, shout out to Seamus. That was great. Yeah, it was a great episode, by the way. You know, I just like, I remember hearing all the things Microsoft was going to do with the internal hard drive, which was Sony didn't have that. Now, I think what pulled me away from PlayStation 2 was really Halo and Xbox Live, because I started getting involved in a community of gamers. And this is when I really, and that may have been, this is really like, and some of us were like playing on, like some of us came from that PC Unreal Tournament space where we want, like Halo was a thing. At that point, Halo had already come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing Halo. We're doing the Xbox LAN parties. We were doing virtual
stuff.
Yeah, System Link. Yep. And that was the other thing that was cool about the Xbox. Was like, oh my God, they have an Ethernet port. You got to remember, like the adoption of Ethernet, of, you know, broadband internet wasn't really, well, clearly it wasn't where it is today.
You were rich if you had Roadrunner.
Right. but I upgraded to Comcast at the time. Had just introduced broadband in my area, and I remember I'm like, I got to get into Xbox Live. I got to be a beta tester. And I remember I upgraded my internet from 56K to broadband, and I got into the second round of beta testing. So I was in round 2. So round 1 was like, I think in November or something, and then round 2 came like 2 months later. And so I got the disc. They gave you like a disc for Xbox Live. You popped it into your Xbox. It downloaded the Xbox Live dashboard, everything, and Revolt and NFL Fever came with it. You got a little headset, which was very cheaply made, I might add. I broke those headsets. I broke so many of those headsets, and we didn't have kind of like the headsets that you and I are wearing right now.
Not
that
even
was
close.
no,
It was
no.
just a one ear and a little patch thing on the other side with this terrible mic and a terrible jack.
Yeah, you look like a call center rep, like
You
with
really
with the headset that Microsoft gave you. But yeah, I mean, I just, Halo comes out and we're doing the LAN parties, and that really distracted me and took me away from PlayStation. I mean, and then we're doing virtual LANs through Xbox Connect, where we could play virtually. And this is before, because we were anticipating Xbox Live, and Halo wasn't, Halo Combat Evolved wasn't Xbox Live at the time. It wouldn't be till Halo 2, but yeah, the Xbox it pulled me away from PlayStation, man, because and I would still play. Not that you wouldn't play PlayStation games. Like obviously, I was playing the Devil May Cry, the Final Fantasy when those
you were
games came
talking
out.
about that GTA with that music, though.
Yeah, but then GTA San Andreas comes out. I'm like, Xbox version, and why? Because you could rip your soundtrack to the game. You could, and it's like, man, I tell you, and then like. That console, man. I mean, geez, like so. As things start snowballing for the Xbox, and Seamus probably, he shared this story about kind of like their focus on content and things like that, and how they were kind of like left alone for the most part until the suits realized how successful Halo was. Like, oh, wait a minute, like this thing's making a lot of money. This games division, an Xbox. But they started getting stuff like. I remember Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and it was one of the games that was on Xbox Live. And Hamsel, I'm telling you, man, we were in a clan. There was an Xbox website, or there was because back then there were like smaller Xbox websites that would pop up and they would have forums. And I forget what it was, but we would have there was like ladder matches, ladder tournament, not ladder matches like in wrestling, ladder tournaments, right? Where you'd have different Xbox Live clans. And you kind of like move up in rankings and stuff like that based on win-loss and stuff. And so we would play games like Wolfenstein, Mech Assault, and eventually Halo 2. And we would compete against each other. Unreal Championship, when I talk about Unreal Tournament, Unreal Championship was another one. And I'm telling you, man, like those things really kind of pulled me away, like I said earlier, from PlayStation. And the Xbox is one of my favorite consoles because it was innovative. And they had software that delivered on that hardware innovation. And then it
delivered right away. It delivered right away. That was really important.
Yeah, and you look at the services. I mean, the Xbox Live as a service, they delivered on that pretty quickly too. The games like Mech Assault, Crimson Skies, Unreal Championship, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I mean, Wolfenstein. I remember staying up to like 6 a.m. playing that game, man. Like just spending like 6 or 7, 8 hours straight playing that game. And the clan that I was in was so good, man. Like most clans, like I don't think there was a clan that could really mess with us, man. I mean, we even had reserves. Like if one of us couldn't make it, that would like jump in and we would just still destroy people.
Okay. Man, so the Xbox was a big moment for you. So jumping from the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2 was pretty dope, and then along came Xbox. It was a powerhouse, and you enjoyed it for quite some time.
Oh, yeah, it was a power. I mean, like, when you have Itagaki-san come out on stage, or not on stage, but, basically give interviews and say, look, the PlayStation 2 isn't powerful enough to do what I want to do with Ninja Gaiden.
Ooh.
I mean, you got to remember Ninja Gaiden. I mean, this is Itagaki. I mean, so and the Xbox wasn't getting a lot of, development support from Japan at the time. And so for a guy like Itagaki-san, who had, released games like Gaiden on other platforms and, would come out and say this, it's like, Team Ninja, it's like, whoa, your ears perked up. And then when Ninja Gaiden hits, I mean, again, it was a game that showcased a lot of the things Microsoft were boasting about the Xbox hardware at the time. And they had the software that showed you what that console was capable of doing.
Absolutely. So moving on from that, now PlayStation 3 wanted to flex in that next generation. So they did, but at a price point that was pretty tough. Xbox came out with the 360 and they actually struck first onto the scene. After being so entrenched with the Xbox at that moment, did you continue with the Xbox until 360 came out, or was the other way around?
No. I mean, again, this is, and I met you earlier. I used to console war. I was waving the green flag, man. I was a GameSpot moderator for the Xbox forums, and so I used to console war, man. I'm ashamed to admit it now, but look, I was in my early 20s, so I'll use that as my excuse. But no, Ham. You got to remember, like they struck, like you said, they struck first, and so when they announced a 360, a lot of us on the Xbox side are like, or I should say side. I hate saying sides, but a lot of us who were on the Xbox platform were like, "Whoa, like this is going to be awesome! Like this is like Microsoft. Wow, they're going to release the next gen console first. Let's go." And we were we were excited. We were so and then I remember one of the first 360 games that I saw, I think, was Call of Duty. Yeah, we talk about Call of Duty, right? So, and I remember seeing that and being like, "Whoa!" And mind you, this now we're starting getting into the high definition era of televisions, right?
Yeah.
And so now so that's kind of like the next step.
We're starting to move away from I and then the P.
And the P's, yeah. So 480, yeah. So we're starting to see that now. And it's we were all excited. I mean, this is I remember people going out and buying the high definition television sets that were still kind of like tubes. The tube sets, not the flat panels that we have today. Those wouldn't come out for a couple more years.
You talking about the projections?
No, I'm talking about just like the regular TV sets they had that had kind of a backing to it, like a tube, kind of like the old TVs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about projection screen at first, but are you talking about like plasma screens?
No, this is before plasmas. So maybe plasmas came out. I forget when plasmas came out, but
I'm pretty sure plasma was out during the original Xbox.
Maybe they were. Maybe I remember Pioneer having the I forget what plasmas, what line they had, but Pioneer was like the big plasma TV manufacturer.
I remember plasmas being just finicky.
Oh, the burn-in.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Yeah.
It was just, yeah. And then sometimes, you turn on the TV and it's like, replace the light. And you're like, oh, damn. And they don't want to go nowhere.
Oh, you're talking about, when you talk about the projection, you talk about the DLP TVs.
Oh, well, there's that for the projection screens, but the plasmas, those got the really bad burn-ins. I mean, TV's evolved quite a bit.
You're right. During the HD era, that's when we started getting the widescreen TV. So you're right. Like they were like DLP TVs, or kind of those projector TVs you're talking about. 'Cause I remember I had one. I had one, and you had the component, the HD component. This is before HDMI. But I do remember that. So this is when we're getting to the HD era, and I remember Perfect Dark coming out, Banjo-Kazooie, just all these games dropping for the 360, and it was just and they looked, they were amazing. I mean, they were just amazing, and then Halo 3. I mean, the 360, but unfortunately Red Ring. I mean, that was an unfortunate thing, unfortunate mishap that happened with the console. But even outside of the 360, Well, obviously, I do remember the red ring. I do remember, and the evolution of Xbox Live too. You know, think about
Oh, that
Xbox
was a
Live.
big step. They made a massive leap.
Yeah, there's a big leap to Xbox Live, and the digital storefronts introduced now. And Netflix on 360 comes about. The 360 was like this is like entertainment hub, and that's why I looked at it. Like I used it for everything, you know, movies, gaming, and you know, I remember, you know, and this is where now we talk about Call of Duty. Modern Warfare comes out now in the 360 generation, and the Xbox 360 is the place to be because they had the robust online with Xbox Live, with the friends list and everything.
Voice
PlayStation
chat.
really wasn't there yet. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the voice chat. I mean, you know, there was it was just, I mean, like Xbox was firing on all cylinders. And they started getting more Japanese support on their console too. You started seeing. I remember, was it Lost Odyssey or something from Capcom? It was one of the games that came.
Lost Planet.
Not Lost Planet, thank you. Not Lost Odyssey. That was another game. But yeah, Lost Planet, and I mean, you know, there were just so many good games on the three, and I felt like the 360 was finally that complete platform for Xbox. Yeah, because now they were getting support.
It was like the
from
showcase
Japanese.
of what they really can,
Yeah,
what they really can do with some time.
yeah.
And then they kind of overdid it on the everything all in one. But before we get into that, did you wind up with a PS3 during this generation? During the
I did it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. But I didn't play it a lot. Not until the latter part of the generation when we start getting like the Uncharted's and then the Last of Us. Sony. Look, I mean, I think it's well documented. They dropped the ball. I mean, this is Sony's own hubris and thinking that they could come in and charge whatever they want and tell people that, you know, people will get a second job to afford a PlayStation.
That's crazy.
Like you don't say that as a corporation. I don't care. You're going to piss people off. That's just tone deaf messaging. And we'll find, and you know, something that Microsoft would later learn with the release of the Xbox One. But yeah, no, I mean, no, I eventually got one. But it wasn't. I mean, it would my playtime on the PlayStation really fell off, because the 360 was what I thought the better platform at the time. And I would still, like, if you were to ask me at the end of the generation what was the better platform, I would say the 360 still. Even though, I mean, PlayStation at the tail end of the, you know, you know, the PlayStation 3, they really started. I mean, they started cranking stuff out.
Oh, they
you
did.
know, we talk about Killzone.
They have games that people are begging for today that came from the latter half of the PS3. Very important part of that. That PS3 history is definitely the last few years of it. And that's where the decline of Xbox really kicked in, dude. In my opinion, was because they went away from the controller and went more into camera type games with Kinect and stuff like that. And I thought Kinect was cool, but once they started to implement it as something forceful and then talking about DRM, I was still Team Xbox 100% throughout that time. Were you running to get the Xbox One, or did you think, you know, let me change things up this generation?
No, I was running at the Xbox because of the 360. But I remember the conversation from gamers. Like they're like, "What is this review?" Like Microsoft's not talking about video games. You're talking about like watching NFL games. You know, they're talking about like, you know, TV shows. They're talking about Kinect, Skype. You know, but I wasn't. I was like, no, this is cool. Like, you know, Xbox cool. Xbox on, hell yeah. You know, I'm like, that's cool.
Yo, check this out, BRAP. Last night, me and my wife were sitting in the front room. We were watching a show, and I have a Series S out in the front room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Hey, I can't hear," because she was cooking some dinner, and she's like, "Yo, I can't hear. Can you turn up the volume?" And I said, "Xbox volume up," and she threw a pillow at me. She's like, because we've been with each other since 2015, so Xbox volume up was a thing that we did back in the day. She threw a pillow at me yesterday because she's like, you can't do that anymore. Like, she's like, get your ass up and go turn up the volume.
Go turn it, yeah.
Because of course we lost the remote. But anyways, continuing on. My bad. I just had to interject.
No, I mean it's fun. I mean that was real, man. Like I mean, I used my Connect, Xbox on, Xbox turn off, Xbox watch whatever,
Xbox Snap. That was like
the
the
Snap.
best
Yes,
function.
I loved Snap. Snap was great, and they got rid of it. I'm like, why? I miss Snap. Snap was great. I don't care what anyone says. I love
like,
Snap.
It's bricking consoles. I was like, let my console brick. I will buy another one.
I'll buy another one. Yeah,
I'll buy another one. At that time, I had I had the Xbox One S and I had the Xbox One, the VCR version of it. And I remember for the One S, you had to buy an adapter for your Kinect to turn on to that. So I did that, and then I was like, yo, Snap ain't working. What's going on here? And yeah, and I think it happened in 2017 when they took away Snap. It was super sad.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I guess it looks like a lot of people weren't using it, is my understanding. So
maybe it's 2016. Maybe it's 2016. They took
was it 20? Okay.
It was one of those years. I remember it was like within the first year or two of me being with my now wife. But yeah, that was a wild time. But so now you have the Xbox One. You like all the features that it comes with because the features were dope. It was just it was just the games were when the console first came out. Now, when the console first came out, I am going to give it credit. I loved Rise, Son of Rome. I thought that was a fantastic game. Call of Duty, I think it was Ghost, was out during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think it was Ghost because later on it was was it Advanced Warfare or something like that with the dude from the TV show on Netflix that got in trouble. I don't remember, the political acting dude. I don't remember. But yeah, there was some pretty good games. Titanfall was another really good one. But as time continued, we started to see where are the games at? Where are they coming? When are they coming? And then, Don ended up losing his job. Bill stepped in. Were you still all in on Xbox at that time, or were you then starting to kind of wean off and go into PlayStation?
Yeah, I would say I started, kind of weaning off a little bit, I think what kind of kept me on what kept me on Xbox a little bit more was, because at that point I was so invested in the Xbox Live ecosystem, like my friends list. I mean, that's what kind of kept me coming back for the most part. But I definitely started like, and look, I mean, there were some great, like you talked about Rise. I love Rise. I love Rise, Son of Rome. I thought it was, I thought it was a good game. One of my favorite launch games.
It still looks good today, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does. It holds its own. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like once the game started drying up a little bit, and now PlayStation's kind of hitting their stride in terms of development. Like I didn't think the PS4 lineup was launch lineup was great. I actually thought the Xbox One had a better launch lineup.
It did.
But PS4 also had Rocket League, and what was the other game? Resogun, I think, was the other one.
I remember Rocket League being over there. I was a little salty about that.
But Rocket League was kind of a a hit for the platform. But but I remember playing oh my god, what's the fighting game that launched on the Xbox One? Why am I drawing a blank here? The one everyone wants back.
Was it like Dead or Alive? No. Killer Instinct is what you're talking
about.
Killer
Instinct. Yeah, I remember Killer Instinct. Like I remember playing that at the Microsoft store. Like I was so excited for the Xbox One. I remember going to the Microsoft store to play because I'll never forget. They're like the Xbox One's available for demo, and I remember playing it. I remember playing it and just being like, yeah, super excited. But once Sony started hitting its stride, yeah, that was a wrap for me. That's the first time, like, and in quite some time, from a console perspective, that I started playing more PlayStation. And quite some time, you got to go back to the original, PS2 era before the original Xbox. But I started playing PS4 more because the games, man. I mean, they had the games,
No. Hey, it makes sense for you if that's what you enjoyed. But let me continue down that road just a little bit and ask, like, what were like some of the statement games that kind of got you from Xbox to PlayStation? Because you said there was fantastic games that came out, and there was a
Yeah.
lackluster of PlayStation 4 games
Yeah.
on launch. But once again, here comes Sony a little bit later in the generation, and they're pumping out some crazy games like Spider-Man, Last of Us Part 2 was way late. God of War 2018.
Yeah.
Those are some of the staple games, sure. But what got you to kind of say, Xbox, you're cool, but you don't got this?
I mean, obviously some of the games that you mentioned, like God of War coming back was huge, but like the Ratchet and Clanks, I would say a lot of their first party stuff. I remember playing, Uncharted. That was another one.
Uncharted 4.
Yeah, Uncharted 4. And yeah, I mean, just like those games, man. Like the first party stuff. I mean, that's what really, and then some of the smaller like indie titles too. I felt like the PS4 had some cool indies on there. Eden Fitch, but I think Eden Fitch was also on Xbox, if I'm not mistaken. But at that time, I mean, again, I was playing that game on PlayStation 4.
So now the PlayStation 4 has you locked in third party as well.
I mean, like, yeah, you think, yeah. I mean, so yeah, right. So now I'm playing more third party because was it Ghost of Tsushima?
Yep, Ghost of Tsushima. Yep.
I mean, it's just and now I'm playing like all the other third party stuff on the PlayStation 4 at the time. Yeah, I just felt like they were. I think you mentioned Spider-Man. Spider-Man's another one. So like once they really started hitting again, once they start hitting their stride, like mid PS4 generation, that mid gen point, that's when I was like really kind of like I wasn't even really messing with Xbox that much.
Yeah, Boogeyman in the chat says Journey was good on PS4. Detroit Become Human was good too. Yeah.
Detroit to Become Human. I mean, even Killzone, which launched on the PlayStation 4. Killzone, I forget which Killzone was that.
Shadowfall.
4? Shadowfall. Thank you. GTA 5.
Again,
bought that again, but on PlayStation this time. Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh my God, man. Like, just think about those. Like, think about just those games I just mentioned. Like, if you just look at like, and then they obviously re-released The Last of Us. They re-released from the PS. Remember, launched at the tail end of PS3. They released the remaster, if you will, for the PS4. And I played that again. And Persona 5. That came out on the PS4. Oh man,
it's a long game.
Oh, I put about 130 hours.
I think I put 140 in.
Oh man, and then look, Bloodborne. Man, man, like, oh my God, that is one of my favorite games.
Okay.
That and I really didn't mess with Souls games too much. Like I tried them like in the 360 era, like Dark Souls 1 and then I picked up Dark Souls 3 and we start talking about third party support now, right? Like now I'm playing third party games on PlayStation. Dark Souls 3 I'm playing it on PlayStation. But man,
So
Bloodborne. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm just saying it's crazy. Like just listening to all this history go back. So if I'm gonna recap 2600, then into like Nintendo, Sega, Master System, into Genesis and Super Nintendo, Sega CD, even a little bit on into PlayStation, PlayStation 2 briefly, then into Xbox hard to the point where you're linking up and doing tournaments with people online randomly, into
Mm-hmm.
the 360 heavy, PS3 kinda, but Xbox 360 way more. And then Xbox One lightly to the PlayStation 4 much more.
Mm-hmm.
So this chart is going up, down, left, and right. This is good. You're making stars all over the place. so 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 from there, and might I add, now you say I am more of a PC guy. I gotta know, did this happen before the Series S and X and PS5 came out, or did it happen once you seen the specs and everything and you were just like, hands up, I'm done with this, getting a PC? Like how did your entrance into I am, PC guy now?
Yeah, and real quick, there's some other games that Mr. Jonah Dark talked about, like Days Gone, The Order 1886, Until Dawn. I mean, again, these are exclusive games that were just, again, this is Sony kind of firing at all cylinders now at this point, and it
Mhm.
just it was hard for me to ignore those games because and Bloodborne. I mean, look, I'm not a trophy hunter. I'm not a trophy hunter by any stretch of imagination. Bloodborne was the first platinum I ever got because
Wow.
I love the game that much. Because I don't care to hunt for trophies. I'm just, once I beat a game, like and actually I just got my second trophy from platinum trophy with God of War Ragnarok. But I don't
Mm.
trophy hunt. Like I just don't, like, once I beat a game, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I don't want to trophy. I don't want to find
There's just too
collectibles, and
many. I feel you. There's
like
too
I don't
many
want to do
games,
it.
in
Like
my
I
opinion,
don't.
not mixed with the. I mean, I got stuff to do during the day. I can't just platinum every single game because as soon as oh man, I beat that. I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I gotta go.
Yeah, no, and that's me. Like, I don't want to look for like I don't want to discover all the purple squirrels that are in the game. Like, I don't want to go back and do that. That's not fun for me. And so, but with Bloodborne, man, oh my God, it was such a, like, Bloodborne was so good, and it was a PlayStation exclusive. And I never forget. I'll never forget when they showed the game off at E3, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And that was the other thing, man. Their E3s were just, at the time, were just killing it. You remember the spectacle, the event of PlayStation E3s? I mean, they were just like these. Like, I'll never forget when they announced God of War. God, with God of War, they announced that you see Kratos again, and they had the orchestra playing, and I'm like, I'm like, come on, this is. So it was all that excitement, of games, and to be a gamer, it was kind of like, it took me back, man, to the days where we would huddle around and open up Nintendo Power and just get hyped because we saw a new game coming out, Castlevania or something, Goonies, I mean, like, it was just, it kind of brought me back to that, man. And that's why the PlayStation 4 is probably one of the best consoles I've owned.
It's fair.
Yeah,
It's fair.
and
They put out a lot of stuff on there that was, and hey, it's still selling today. The
oh yeah,
PS4, it's still selling.
I mean, we talked about Persona 5. I mean, Persona 5 comes out. I mean, like, you're like, wow. I mean, it was so good, you know? And there's other games. There's I think was it 13 Sentinel was another one that I played on PlayStation 4 by that's also I think by Atlas. There's another one that came out, and they would have these kind of I don't want to call them obscure games, but games that like Xbox just doesn't get. And that was the beauty of PlayStation 4, you know. So yeah. But so I'm sorry, your question was
your entrance
PC,
to
right?
PC.
Okay. So that actually started as a result of Microsoft. And so, look, I was still like, on the Xbox One console, but not as much, obviously, as PlayStation 4. Because at this point, like I said, my preference in terms of consoles had shifted. But Microsoft announces Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna game on PC. Now, I game on PC, years ago, playing the Unreal tournaments, the arena-based shooters, Wolfenstein back in the days, Doom back in the days, Age of Empires on PC back in the days, and I was just like, I want to get back into, Catherine. Thank you. I'm sorry. I know I'm going off the kind of deviating here, but like Mr. Joan Dog's bring up some games
Mr.
like Catherine
Dark always gets my guests and my shows to deviate, and it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, look, Yakuza,
he says great
Yakuza's another one that was for PlayStation. Catherine Full Body, which is an Atlas game. Sentinel 13. Grand Blue Fantasy. What was the one? God, what was the one with the? Oh my God, there was a PSP game, and then they made it. Oh my God, it was Sony Japan Studios. It was a PSP game. They made the port to PlayStation 4, and then they released the second one. And the traversal, it was amazing in that game. It was so different. I hope Mr. Jonah Dark remembers what I'm talking about. Anyhow, all right, let me just shut up. All right, so Gravity Rush, thank you. That's it. Gravity Rush 1 and 2. Oh, amazing. All right, let me get off my PS4 spiel right now. So like Microsoft, like talk about like bringing their games to and part of it too is because I also at this point I was 3 years into BRAP, and so part of it was actually because of the show. I wanted to get a new desktop because I was using a laptop to stream. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a desktop. Microsoft's going to bring its games to PC. And this is 2019, and I'm like, I'm getting a PC rig. Like Microsoft kind of, from a gaming perspective, made that choice very easy for me. Because like, why would I want to enjoy first party content on PC and have a better experience? I
don't know why people take that negatively when they hear that.
I mean,
when they're like, "Yo, I got a PC and I'm just gonna play all my Xbox games on that," I don't blame you, especially if you can like I've been to some people's cribs where they got their PC built crazy to where it's like mounted up on their wall, and they got the TVs, they got dual TVs, one on top of the other. And it's like, yo, if you can do that, why would you play on a PlayStation or an Xbox? You got like the most crazy setup right there. Like, why spend? I mean, hey, and Barry said this a while ago when I had him on this show, and he's like, yo, if PlayStation does the same route that Xbox did, I might just be all PC. That's what he said.
Hey,
on this show.
I want Sony. Jim Ryan, if you're listening to the show, please give us first party games day-to-day on PC.
Ooh. I think that's a fantastic idea, though.
I'll get rid of my PS5. I won't need one.
Talk about sales. That's a quick way to make a lot of bucks.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, like I don't believe there's people, it's gonna, hurt PlayStation. No, it's not, because they're different addressable markets. You have different consumers. I mean, there might be some cannibalization, but not at a rate, at a level that would impact PlayStation hardware sales negatively. You know what I mean? You're gonna
There's
have
still going to
people
be
like
a lot
me.
of people that want just the quick fix. They don't
Yeah,
want to get the
people don't want to go out and spend
$5,000 PC.
Yeah, I mean, I just got a PC. I spent $3,000 on it last year. So in 2019, I get a PC. It's where the 20 series cards come out, and then 2022, I get a new PC. And but Microsoft then just being a content creator really kind of pushed me the PC route. But when Microsoft's like, look, we're bringing games on Game Pass, I'm like, hell yeah, Microsoft! Like this is for your first party stuff, and getting games on Game Pass on PC. Yeah, cool. I'm down. I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna get a rig, and so that's what I did. I never looked back. I like the tinkering, and I don't tinker as much as like a Slow-Mo does. Slow-Mo is really, he's doing more of that than I am. But I like the ability to like if Halo Infinite comes out, I'm not playing Halo Infinite on my Xbox. I'm playing Halo Infinite on my PC.
Xbox.
Yeah, I do. I have 2 Series X's and Series S.
You have 2 Series X's and a Series S?
Yeah. In my house.
Okay. So you rock with it. You just, when you're going to sit down, especially when you're going to play a multiplayer experience, you probably want the fastest thing possible.
Oh yeah. I might like every once in a while you play Halo Infinite on my Series X because like I need to use my Series X, because I don't really use it. Like my sons will use the Series X and Series S, and I have a Series X in my game room, but I don't really use my Series X. There's no reason for me to. I have a PC, and the games that I am playing for Microsoft first party right now, primarily just Halo Infinite, and I have I have an LG C1. I have a 65-inch LG C1 in my gaming room. My PC, I have my PC hooked up to via HDMI.
That's what I just got done talking about.
So,
I mean, when you have
like,
all of that power in, like, for me, I like to usually play Halo on my PC. And my wife well, I take that back. When my wife comes in, I allow her to play on my PC then, and then I'll play on my Xbox. I'll play so I can sit on the couch or whatever. But like having those choices is pretty dope though. Having a console and then turning around and being able to play that same thing on PC with it being cross play, fantastic. But yeah, I don't blame somebody that wants to get the most power to their game possible if the option's available.
Yeah. And that's what I did. And I tell you, man, I love PC, man. So it's funny to kind of circle back to your comment earlier this evening, when people are like, "Oh, he's a pony or he's a bot." I laugh because I'm like, no, I'm about PC life. I love it. The ability to like, to tinker with resolution and frames per second and graphical settings, things like that. Like that's cool. That's cool to me. I like that. I like that ability, that flexibility, the option to do that. And I'm playing, I play Halo Infinite 1440p at 120 FPS at high graphical settings on my C1. It looks great on my TV. It looks phenomenal. And my TV supports G-Sync and V-Sync, and it can go up to 120 megahertz. And so or if I don't want to play on my I want to up the FPS, then I just sit in front of my monitor. But I play Call of Duty right now, Modern Warfare 2, extreme settings at 120 FPS. I mean, Cyberpunk, man. Cyberpunk. Thank God I had a PC when that came out.
Right.
But I mean the games, I mean, I'm telling you, man, it just, I don't see myself ever, I don't ever see PC not being, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Never speaking absolutes, but I don't see PC never not being my platform of choice.
Okay, I got it. So after all of that history, now you're saying I lie here with the PC.
Oh
That's
yeah,
where
man.
I'm at first and foremost, and everything else is it's just nice when it happens.
It's like when
Sprinkles on
you
top.
it's like when you like when you drive, like when you get to a point where people have an affinity for luxury cars or sports cars, right? Because of the performance. Like for me, it's kind of like that. Like the performance of PC and really kind of the I have my and by the way, Nate, who's I think Nate's still in the live chat. And Nate's setup is insane, by the way. You talk about like people having their TVs hung up on the wall. He's
Mm-hmm.
got the RGB. I mean, he's got one of the best looking setups of a gaming room that I've seen. Um, but like my PC, I have a radiator in it. Liquid cooling for
Mm-hmm.
my CPU. I've got the RGBs. Got the the plexiglass case on the side where you can see the internals. I mean, it's just I got RGBs behind the monitor. I mean, it's just it's sexy, man.
It
that's
is.
that's the it's a level of customization you just don't have in consoles, man.
And the cool thing about it is, like, for the most part, like, either you put it together yourself or at least you picked all the parts to be in there.
Yeah,
Pre-builds, I don't hate them at all. I just think that most of the time you end up getting most of what you want, but not exactly what you want. Um, I don't think anything's wrong with it. If you don't want to spend the time building the PC, I ain't pocket watching. I don't give a damn. Pay for that help if you need it. But like for me, when I built my PC, it was the first time I ever did it, and man, I was blown away that like all this stuff I put together myself, it becomes your baby compared to like a console. A console's great. I love my Series X. I I really like my PS5. I wanted to say love it, but it's just so goddamn ugly. I ain't
yeah. I
gonna
mean,
lie.
we talked about that last night on BRAP. Like the PS5 is ugly. It is so ugly.
Hey, did you see those weird pictures of the Pro? Have you seen those? Like, I'm not sure if
No.
they're real. I doubt they're real at all, but I've seen some weird pictures of like they were both black. It was supposed to be a slim and then the PS5 Pro. And it looked like something. And I can't say that it looks far away from what I would anticipate it looking like. I'm not sure if you can look it up and see it for yourself or if yeah, it's something. It's something. Hopefully that's not real.
Look, man, I hope they I really hope I look I like if you like the PS5 design, that's fine. Like I'm not gonna begrudge anyone who liked the design, but I think it looks like I said to you yesterday, it looks like a Trapper Keeper.
It
I'm
does.
just not. I prefer the minimalist design of the Xbox Series X. I think Microsoft, in my opinion, did a better job with their minimalist design than the PS5. I don't know what the PS5 is. It looks like a burrito. Let me stop, man. I'm good.
Looks like he's trying to say it looks like a quesadilla. It looks like somebody
Yeah,
stepped on a quesadilla.
yeah. Or you look. What's the? Remember the double decker tacos from Taco Bell? That
Absolutely, I remember that joint. But
yeah, I think it's ugly.
we got honestly about 15 max 20 minutes left before I need to get moving. I gotta let you go. I gotta get some gaming in before the end of the night. So
I hear you, man.
so let me get back to the topic at hand. And now we are at since you have like fully admitted that you are infatuated with PC now. Um what is it about this console generation that is super appealing to you from each side. So I want to say PlayStation. I want to put PlayStation and Xbox. I want to pit them against each other. I want you to tell me something great from each side. Then I want you to tell me something not so pretty for each side.
Let me start with PlayStation. I mean, I think with them, it's I think they're just they have started where they left off the PS4 generation, and you know, I don't have a lot of criticisms for PlayStation 5 right now, other than I would like for them to. I know this is not a popular opinion amongst the PlayStation community, but look, I would love to see their, selfishly speaking, I would love to see their games on PC day and date. I mean, you're putting them there. Just give BRAP day and date on PC. Like, look, I will be there day one. I want that. That's my one criticism of it right now. I would like to see more multiplayer content, first party content from them. I know they're working on that right now, which is good.
Do you
but
think
I want to
it's
see
okay that they're working on it in like a gas sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any issue with that. You know,
Okay.
I can't judge something I haven't seen.
That's a fact.
You know, like why am I going to spend all this energy and being like, oh my god, I can't believe it's gas. You know, gas games suck. Like, what if it
wouldn't
doesn't
be
suck?
surprised if Factions is one of those.
Yeah,
gas
I mean,
games. It's probably going to be phenomenal, but
yeah,
who said a gas game can't be phenomenal? It's just
yeah,
it's really it's really muddy outside, and the last thing we all seen that was gas wasn't
yeah,
taken very well.
yeah. You know, and I think that, you know, I think they my one credit. So I think they're doing a great job with the first party content, and not just that, but also, like, you know, the relationship with the third party developers that they have. You know, they are bringing content right now, whether it's, you know, first party exclusives or timed exclusives. And, you know, for me, from a console perspective, you know, they are doing the things that brought me, you know, back to the PlayStation, primarily as, you know, the console I play on. You know, with you know, again, the great first party stuff. And look, I think, you know, they have done a better job releasing exclusive content at the start of this generation than Microsoft has. Are there areas of improvement for PlayStation? Yeah, I would like to see them bring games to PC day and date. I'd like to see their, you know, what the free monthly games that they have for PlayStation Plus. As a subscriber, they really have been kind of a miss for me.
PlayStation Plus Premium just be better.
Yeah,
When they offered the old games, that's one of the things I love about Game Pass is I get to play some of like the really old games, and they offer old games on the PlayStation Plus Premium, but it's just a small selection, and it's kind of like when they first launched, they had one PSP game in there, and I was just like, why even put anything in there? You got one. How you got one game for the entire console in there? That's insane.
Yeah, and I think you know, the other thing too is I would like for the PlayStation to fix the UI. I don't think it's terrible, but like we talked about last night, like it's a little. I like to see a little bit more simplistic. I feel like I get not lost, but I don't know. It seems just a little too busy for me. But that's good. That could be because I'm older, you know. But I again, I don't have a lot of complaints about PlayStation 5. It's about gaming, and that's what we do this for. We do it for gaming, and I just think they've done a really good job. You know, they haven't skipped a beat. You know, the area that I think Microsoft's done a really good job is that value proposition with Game Pass. What I would like to see from Game Pass, though, and the reason why I subscribe to Game Pass, and I plucked down the $180 for Game Pass Ultimate, but I don't use the service that much, and that's because when I signed up in was it 2017 when they announced Game Pass, I signed up for like to me, Game Pass made sense for me. And again, this is my individual use case because everyone's use case is different. If you are using Game Pass to play older games and you like that and you feel like you're getting your money's worth that way, that's great. But my use case is a little bit different. I bought Game Pass for a lot of the first party stuff. And I remember when like I think it was Gears 4 and like Forza came out and shortly after Halo 5. I remember like, oh wow, this is why I signed up for Game Pass, right? I've gotten 3 AAA games. That's $120 because the games were $60 at the time. And my ROI is good. And there may have been like a couple other smaller titles in there I picked up. My ROI right now for Game Pass is not good. And that's because they haven't put things in Game Pass that I want to play. Like, or they haven't put the type of games that I initially signed up for Game Pass to play. And now I am excited to see what they do with all these studio acquisitions now. And I hope that those acquisitions, they start, and not that every game needs to be a AAA game, but I like to see more AAA games.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush was nice.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush was, again, I kind of gave up on it, but I'm going to go back to it because it didn't really kind of get its hooks into me like right away. But people were telling me, oh, just give it a little bit more time. And yeah, Dave Falky says you're a sucker for paying full price BRAP. Look, man, I know the dollar deals, and maybe I am a sucker for that, but that's what I want to see for them, Ham Solo. And look, they've made strides. Like you can't deny that Xbox, that Phil Spencer and leadership there has put themselves in a better position than the Xbox One. But there's still some issues, I think, in terms of their management of their production pipeline. Again, they've acquired a lot of studios, but we haven't seen anything from these studios yet. I think Starfield's gonna be the first big AAA game that's exclusive to the series consoles this generation. And I hope that hits. That's my most anticipated game of 2023 right now is Starfield. But that's what I want to see. I want to see them improve their production pipeline and that release cadence. And I want to see more AAA games. That's what I signed up for Game Pass. For me, that's where Game Pass made sense. Like, wow, I don't have to pay $60 for a big AAA game now. I can get it in Game Pass for, if I can get 3 or 4, if I get 3 or 4 games out of Game Pass a year, I'm happy. I'm just not getting that right now. Those 3 or 4 games don't have to be all AAAs, but at least 2 of them should be AAAs. So that's what I want to see from them. And I'm not gonna say that there hasn't been any improvement from the Xbox One because we have tangible proof of that. We could see the things they've done with putting games day and date in Game Pass. We could see the things they've done with the acquisitions of studios, and now they're trying to acquire ABK. So they are trying to they're addressing that concern of quote unquote no games, but we also need to see some games now.
Right. And with the rest of the year going on, you already said your most anticipated game this year is Starfield. Other than Starfield, what are some notable games that you're really interested in for any platform at this point?
I mean, obviously, Spider-Man on PlayStation. The new Final Fantasy game 16 is coming out.
Okay.
What else? Obviously, Legend of Zelda, Nintendo. Looking forward to that. God, what else? I know I'm missing a bunch.
They got Stellar Blade, I know, for PlayStation that's coming out later. It's supposed to be later this year. Redfall, Forza, Lies of P. I know there's several other games. There's a lot of games coming out this year. I just don't.
Oh, the new the follow up to the Star Wars. What's it called? The Jedi Survivor.
Oh, Jedi Survivor. Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
April, I believe. End of
April. Yeah. Those are like the ones that really kind of stand out for me. But Starfield's the biggest one for me. I mean, this is for everything I've heard, I mean, this is a pretty big undertaking by Todd Howard and company. Like they're really trying to take that formula to the next level. So we'll see if they execute on that. But
I mean, hey,
that's
look at the lines in that game compared to Fallout 4. It's just insane
yeah,
the amount of dialogue that they put in that game. So just to think that there's that much dialogue, and then there's a lot of handcrafted planets, but then a crazy amount of procedural generated ones. Like it just seems like it's gonna be just a time sink, 100%, and it's gonna be a very, very, very long one. And I'm happy. I'm hungry for
yeah.
it. Give me something that I can kind of lose everything on. And I'm ready to try it out on everything, on my PC, on my Xbox Series S and X. I want to try it out on everything. And I was saying this yesterday. I want to see if that Series S is really holding things back, like they like to say. Because I
Yeah.
think Starfield will probably be fine.
Yeah. Falky mentioned Street Fighter 6. I haven't been interested in Street Fighter in quite some time, but 6 has kind of
Same.
piqued my interest.
Or Diablo 4.
Yeah, Diablo 4 is another one. Yeah. Definitely Diablo 4.
I'm interested in it, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I am a Diablo player. I'm not. I've never played any Diablo. The closest thing to Diablo I played growing up was Gauntlet. If you remember
Oh my
that
God.
game.
Yeah, I remember Gauntlet. Yeah.
Gauntlet was
Yep.
fantastic. I loved it. But anyways, let me hit you with a few other questions before we close it out. We got about 7 minutes left before I wanted to hit the end of everything completely, because I like to only run the show about 2 hours. Sometimes it gets out of hand and goes way long, but we already started kind of late, so I want to make sure we end on time this evening. So with that being said, what is a genre in games that you really don't enjoy that much, or that you openly admittedly don't like at all?
Oh man. That's a good question. Um, Probably I can't say like I really dislike a genre per se.
Yeah, I know, because one can come up out of nowhere
Yeah,
sometimes.
like
I know that happened to me with turn based, and then someone's like, "You should try Persona," and then all of a sudden I spend
right,
140
yeah,
hours into that game, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, right,
"Oh, I guess turn based ain't too bad."
yeah, right. You know, it's that's a hard question, man. I mean, I'm not a big fan of RTS games,
Okay.
but I do like Age of Empires. So it's like it's tough. I'm not really big into fighting games. Like that's not really like I don't like go crazy over them. But Street Fighter 6 is kind of piqued my interest. Racing games are not my thing, but I mean, I play GTs. The last GT7 that came out. I'll dabble in Forza Horizon every once in a while. But yeah, I can't say like there's a genre I dislike. Like
All right, so let me put it this
yeah,
way, because this is the way I put it whenever I see
mhm.
somebody sitting on the fence a little bit.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want you to think about it as if you were walking into a Blockbuster today, and instead of just games being like just thrown against the wall like they are everywhere without any respect, and I'm looking at you, Best Buy, all of y'all throw games just at walls. What I'd like to see is what Best Buy does with their music, how they put everything in a genre. R&B's right here, rap's right here, rock's right here, metal over here. Let's say you walk into like Blockbuster and they have all these games set in genres. What is the last genre that you're going to look at?
racing games.
Racing games. Okay.
Yeah,
Question answered. All right, moving on.
yeah.
Um, what were the best last 3 games that you've played throughout the last 365 days? So throughout the last year, March of 2022 to now, what were the best 3 games that you've played, whether they came out during that period or not?
Oh man, that's wow. Obviously, Elden Ring. Um, Fireblade Emblem.
Oh, Fire Emblem.
I'm sorry, Fire. I don't know why I say Fireblade. Yeah, Fire Emblem. Geez, what else? God, there's so many games.
No.
Last of Us Part 2. God of War 20 Ragnarok.
So what are the top 3? Remember, this is top 3.
I would say Elden Ring, Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West would be the top 3.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I'm not gonna lie, I got my multiplayer shooters up there too, man. I do love me some Fortnite. I'm not gonna lie, man. Love the battle royale.
Fair enough. All right. So now I want to know, what is your favorite studio and what game best represents that studio?
Man, I'm gonna have to go From Software.
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Got it. You were talking about it a lot earlier, so I knew I had a feeling it was coming.
Yeah, you know, the top 3, even though we talk about like top 3 games, or that's kind of difficult. Like, you know,
It is.
Firehouse Emblem, it was up there for me for Nintendo. Their Astral Chain was another one that was up there for me for Nintendo. Halo Infinite multiplayer has been up there for me. But there's just so many. I mean, like, there's just a lot, man. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of games.
Fair enough. How you liking this season 3 of Halo?
You know, it's not bad. I think the issue with Halo Infinite as a live service game, it doesn't do enough for me. It doesn't do enough to keep me engaged per se. Like I'm you know, and I'm playing. I've got back to playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Big thank you to Game Logic and Slow Mo for bringing me back into the fold of Call of Duty. But the customization of weapons and that battle pass and being able to tinker with different loadouts, that's what keeps me coming back to COD. And you know, I don't get that sense of accomplishment like you do with COD when you unlock, you know, certain upgrades, weapon upgrades, on Halo Infinite, and I think that's what's missing. Like, you get armor like cosmetics, but I don't think they're not sexy.
You
in
never
Solo.
see your player though.
No, you don't see your player. That's the other. You don't see your player, and you know, you
get all
see
these
him on
cosmetics
screen.
for everybody
Yeah,
else to see you teabagging and that.
yeah, and you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, the core gameplay mechanic for that game is really good. It's really good. It's solid, but I think as a live service game, it just doesn't really work. You know, I like them. I would like for them to kind of deviate and maybe introduce more weapons customizations. You
That
know,
would be
kind of
fun. That'd be
similar to COD.
interesting. But some
It
would
would
say that
change
wouldn't
the
be
dynamic.
Halo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I say, you know, the hell with those people. Like just move, just push the franchise forward.
I mean, in
You know,
some ways,
it's
a
not a
lot of
popular
people
opinion,
say
but
those people ruined.
I've
A
heard
lot of
that
people
argument.
say
Yeah,
those people ruined Halo. Is
yeah.
343 listening too much to the fans instead of just doing what they want to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought them pushing some of the trying to modernize. I think the take on Halo multiplayer, like with Halo 5, I thought was pretty good. But people got upset; they didn't like that. And but you know, but man, I mean, I tell you, the one game that kind of stands out the last year for me is definitely Elden Ring.
Elden Ring, yeah. I mean, it was powerful. It was powerful to the point that it is getting people. And the same thing happened with Hogwarts Legacy, if I'm gonna be real. It was getting people that I haven't seen for years into like you know, you turn on the Xbox, you look to see who's online, you're like, no, ain't no way.
Yeah,
Ain't no way that they got a console. How did they? No way. So that happened a lot during Elden Ring, and I'm not a Souls guy at all, and I beat the game. I felt like that, you know, Elden Lord and whatnot. So it was definitely dope. I've never paid full price for a Souls game until Elden Ring. People got me to bandwagon into it, and I tell you what, I'm not mad at that decision. Not mad.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. You know, it was another really good game that came out. Um, oh, geez, maybe it's going on 2 years now. Was Metroid Dread?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
Metroid Dread. Yeah,
yeah,
that came
yeah,
out around the same time as OLED.
yeah. Metroid Dread was, yeah, really good, really good.
Got it.
So, but
All
yeah,
right,
anyhow, I mean,
so
it's just, yeah.
we got like let's see, I got 3 questions left. I already asked one, so yeah, I still got 3 questions still, anyways, because I already asked you what your most anticipated game was. You said Starfield. But now I want you to tell me what are 2 dead IPs that you'd like to see come back and get AAA, get the love.
Oh man, that's tough.
It's a fun question, though, right?
Could it be like a sequel?
Hey, man, this is your choices. This is your 2 game.
Bloodborne 2, a sequel.
Okay.
Um, Geez, a second one. You know, I'd like to see. I'm trying to think here. Um, oh man, this is tough because there's so many.
You want
This
to
is
see a
tough,
new
man.
game day.
What's that?
So you want to see a new game day.
You know what? I'd like to see NFL 2K come back, man. Because I know we talked about
Oh,
that
I love it.
yesterday.
Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Bring
love
to
it.
come on, let's get the license, the NFL license out of the hands of EA and let's get an NFL 2K. I'd love to see that.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. All right. These last 2 questions I usually put together, and I'm going to do that just like I always do. I want to know what frustrates you about gaming, if anything, and this could be at any piece of gaming, whether it is community, the game's coming out broken, so development or whatnot, or whatever. And then what would be a dream come true within like the gaming community?
I think for me, not enough time to play games. That's that's my biggest complaint, man. I don't I just don't have enough time anymore like I used to, you know? That's my biggest complaint.
That's
You
not
know,
a bad complaint. That's
like
very
like, like this
not
is
selfish.
like this is an amazing time to be a gamer, and so I think was your other question like if I could change something or
No, no, no. It was
oh,
the second question was like, what would be a dream come true?
oh okay. But no, I would say for me it's I don't have enough time to play games, so that's my complaint about gaming. Dream come true? Um, Geez, I don't know. That's a great question, man. I think for me, it's I guess for me, like it would be great if people wouldn't be as tribalistic with gaming. You know, because like I said, like the weird thing is like there's this division, and not with all gamers. I mean, like, I'm just saying there's probably a smaller group, but there is some tribalism, right? And so I wish that wasn't the case, you know, because we all like the same thing. We're just doing it on different platforms, you know,
Absolutely.
and we shouldn't be divided because of the platform that we play video games on is different from someone else, you know.
Clear, clear and concise.
Yeah.
Very good.
So
All right. So before we get to the exit piece of the show, I must ask: do you have any questions for me before we get working on out of here?
No, you know what? I don't only because Ham Solo, we had you on BRAP last night.
Very
So
true.
yeah, so I don't have any
So,
questions, man.
so if you guys want to see anything that he's asked me, go check out that episode on Rap's channel. But to continue on, brother, please let everybody know where they can find you. And before you do that, I just want to say I appreciate and thank you again for being, flexible a little bit. I know it was only like a half hour or whatever, but it's still being being flexible and with your time and whatnot. So I really appreciate that. You guys in the chat, I really appreciate you guys for being flexible, being willing to come through, check out the show, although it is a little bit later than I had anticipated it being. But yes, Brat, please go on ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and about your show and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, Ham. Look, I want to say, hey, thank you so much, man. This has been fun, man. Like, it's great talking about video games. And I had a blast, man. So I really appreciate you extending the offer, and also really enjoyed having you on BRAP last night as well. So thank you again, man. I really appreciate it. But yeah, like if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, you can at BRAP_podcast. That's BARP_podcast, and then you can catch us Basement Radio Arcade Podcast on YouTube every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's myself, Flemo Backslap, Gaming Forte, and B Money 101. So we're not a platform centric podcast. We just talk about video games. So definitely check us out.
Yeah, definitely. And I really, again, I'm going to say that this one more time. I really appreciate you, Brap, and everybody else coming through and checking out the show this evening. If you're new here, please do me the favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. I'm still a very, very small channel trying to grow, trying to figure out my bearings in this unforgivable world that is YouTube. But I'm doing my best out here. And yeah, I appreciate everybody. One last thing before we tie up and get up out of here, Brap, I got to ask you to describe gaming in just 3 words.
Oh, man. Awesome, fun, and relaxing.
Awesome,
gaming,
fun, and relaxing.
Because gaming actually will helps me with stress. Long day at work, pick up the controller, relaxed.
Well, there you guys have it. there you guys have it. It was a fantastic show. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. And as I say on the TSWS Gaming YouTube channel, keep it gaming or keep it moving. Peace out, y'all. Welcome to the Behind Them Sticks podcast, brought to you by TSWS Gaming.
Come and talk to me, Lennard Ray. Come on. Come and talk to me. I just wanna have a conversation. No, I'm not your type, but baby, listen, I'm just saying. We can rule the world, just me and you.